Hey Pretty Girl Club. So today I'm going to give you 50 examples of pretty privilege. These are going to be positive examples of pretty privilege. On this channel, I have been focusing on kind of the dark side of pretty privilege or pretty girl problems, but I also want to balance out that content by creating content that talks about like the benefits of pretty privilege and how to utilize your pretty privilege. So this is going to be just a video where I'm kind of defining examples of pretty privilege. And the way that I found this information was actually by looking on ChatGPT. So I did a prompt in ChatGPT and I said in the prompt to name 100 examples of pretty privilege based on, what's on the internet along with an explanation. So it says number 1, receiving better customer service. And that is because you have an attractive appearance. So if you are very noticeable, like the definition of being pretty is being noticeable. So if you're noticeable, you're more likely to get helped in a store. Number 2 is being approached more often in social settings. So have you ever been told that you have a friendly face or that you look approachable? Because this is a positive example of pretty privilege. If you are conventionally attractive, then you might find yourself being approached in social situations because people think that you look more safe. So they don't think that you look like you are a villain or like you're a mean girl or whatever. I know that that's one of the dark sides of pretty privilege, but this video is focusing on the positive aspects of pretty privilege. Number 3, having more opportunities in modeling and entertainment industries. We all know how in Hollywood, most of the people they have straight white teeth or very clear skin or they're in shape. Number 4, being more likely to be hired for certain jobs. So if you're going for a job where your appearance matters, like sales or real estate or hospitality, your attractiveness might give you an advantage. Number 5, being perceived as more trustworthy or competent based on your appearance. So that is a part of the halo effect. We all know that if you are in a situation where your pretty privilege works, then people will associate positive qualities to your beauty. By the way, if you find yourself experiencing more pretty girl problems versus pretty privilege, like positive aspects, that means that you're in an environment where your pretty privilege doesn't work. Your pretty privilege does not work around jealous people. Your pretty privilege won't work around people who maybe they don't see your beauty or they refuse to see your beauty. So you want to always go where your pretty privilege works best for you. Another way that people say it is go where you're celebrated. Number 6, receiving lighter sentences or more leniency in legal proceedings. So have you ever been pulled over and you got out of a ticket? That's an example of pretty privilege working in your favor. Studies have shown that attractive people might receive less sentencing time or they don't receive as harsh of a punishment. So that's an example of pretty privilege. Number 7, getting more likes and followers on social media platforms. And by the way, part of the reason I'm talking about this is because oftentimes when people talk about isms, colorism, texturism, or featureism, what they're really doing is talking about pretty privilege and them not having it. And so they're blaming it on isms, I've noticed. So that's why I'm clearly defining what pretty privilege is so that we can tell the difference between actual colorism or that person simply not having pretty privilege. But number 7 is getting more likes and followers on social media platforms. This is something that a lot of people talk about when they say so-and-so is racist or colorist or texturist. What they really mean is this other person who has a different phenotype than me is perceived as more pretty than me. They're perceived as more attractive than me. Her pretty privilege works better on Instagram than my pretty privilege on Instagram. Because that's an example of pretty privilege, getting more likes and followers on social media platforms. Number 8, having easier access to influential social circles. We all know that if you are pretty, you have a higher chance of getting into these exclusive spaces. Lots of people want to socialize with the wealthy or they want to socialize with people who have high status. That's going to be a lot easier if you're pretty. You're going to look like you fit in more. Number 9, being considered for promotions or career advancement based on looks. In some industries, attractiveness may be equated with competence and success, leading to preferential treatment. So let's say you are a go-go dancer, you're a stripper, you're a sex worker, you are a bartender. You're doing something where your attractiveness is directly correlated to the amount of tips you receive. That's an example of pretty privilege working in your favor. Number 10, being invited to exclusive events or parties. Attractive girls may receive invitations to events or VIP sections based on their appearance because everybody knows that when you're pretty, you are a status symbol. Number 11, receiving freebies or perks from businesses or brands. If you guys follow my Patreon or you're a part of my members group, you will hear me talk about how to utilize this form of pretty privilege. You can more easily get onto PR lists. Let's say you have really pretty hair and you want to be a hair influencer, or you simply want free hair stuff from certain companies. If the people at that company think your hair is pretty, they're more likely to give you the free products and free drinks and stuff. That is also a part of this as well. Number 12, being less likely to be targeted for suspicion by law enforcement. Studies show that attractive people may be perceived as less threatening by police officers, leading to reduced scrutiny and suspicion. So, if you have a pretty smile or you bat your eyelashes, this is something very commonly that they show in like movies and stuff to where they perceive you as being innocent because you're just pretty. Number 13, having an easier time making friends or forming relationships. Like I said, this only works if you're in an environment where your pretty privilege works, not an environment where your pretty privilege does not work. Um, but pretty privilege can facilitate social interactions and relationships, as attractive individuals may be perceived as more desirable and approachable. I like to do this on YouTube. I love to make friends with other pretty girls who have their own channels that talk about being pretty. I love it when we all hang out and we have like the pretty girl club. That's why I like calling you guys that, because I would rather have friends who are women of status, women who are leveled up, and women who are not bogged down by the weight of the world. So that's why they're saying it's easier for you to make friends. Because if you're making friends with non-jealous people, then they're going to hype you up. They're going to encourage you and be like, oh my gosh, you're so pretty. Like, let's be pretty together. Let's have a whole pretty girl squad. Number 14, being listened to more attentively in conversations. So the whole definition of the word attractive literally means you attract attention. So when the pretty girl speaks, people listen. Hence why so many people are mad about this channel. Hence why so many people are trying so hard to dox me. They're trying to get my channel taken down, get other channels taken down. Because if people perceive you as being pretty, they are more likely to pay attention. This is why you could be pretty and maybe you're not that knowledgeable, but because you're pretty, people listen when you say something. So this is another reason why sometimes other women get mad. They'll be like, I've been saying that same thing for years and you only listened when she said it. You only listened when this other woman said it. Well, it's because that person probably found that other woman more attractive, or they probably put her on a social pedestal, because beauty is a form of social power. And so it causes people to listen to you. So you can use your social power to draw attention to whatever you want to draw attention to. 15, being seen as more approachable or friendly. This kind of reminds me of the bubbly cheerleader stereotype. So, you're very cute. I'm kind of thinking of someone with like dimples or something, someone smiling, and somebody who looks really pretty in the skirts and stuff. You're seen as approachable and friendly. Number 16, being given the benefit of the doubt in various situations. This is a very common one that a lot of women get angry about. So a lot of women who do not have pretty privilege, they get upset when the pretty girl speaks and people believe the pretty girl. They'll say, you are being less harsh on her, or, you guys are minimizing me. Nobody listens to me. Nobody notices me. You're only noticing her. Well, yeah, that's because according to ChatGPT, one of the examples of pretty privilege is being given the benefit of the doubt in various situations. 17, being perceived as more intelligent or capable in professional settings. Have you ever seen a woman at work and she's very well dressed? She looks really elegant. She looks very classy. Her outfit matches perfectly. She doesn't have a wrinkle on her shirt or anything like that. Those types of women are perceived as being more capable. So once again, you're getting the halo effect. 18, receiving compliments or positive attention more frequently. This is another thing a lot of people get pissed about. For example, that one video where the girl said, I don't have pretty privilege and that sucks. Her example of that was she walked into a bar, nobody batted an eye, nobody looked over at her, and then her friend walked into the bar, everybody batted an eye, and everyone looked at her, and people were smiling and stuff like that. So receiving compliments, that is a sure sign of pretty privilege, and it's also a sure sign that you're going to have somebody hating on you. 19, having an easier time finding romantic partners. Pretty girls might have a larger pool of potential romantic partners to choose from because you've got more people who are drawn to your appearance. There are more guys out there who want somebody with a nice body versus somebody who is 700 pounds. Whenever people make those kinds of talking points, that's what they're trying to imply. They're trying to imply that you have more options because you are meeting all of these different beauty standards in the dating market. And by the way, I do believe that beauty is subjective. So I think there's a different standard of beauty for the Black community, the white community, dating apps, Instagram, and we get into all those nuances on this channel, so be sure to subscribe. Number 20, being featured more prominently in advertisements and media. This is another reason why women get mad about not feeling like they have representation. Oftentimes, if you do not have pretty privilege, when it comes to the media, they like to show people that they think are attractive. And so if you are not seeing your own image in the media, I mean, that's a very common trigger that causes women to think that they are ugly, because right here on the screen it says, you are featured more prominently in advertisements or media. That's an example of pretty privilege. Companies and media outlets often feature attractive individuals in advertisements because they're trying to capitalize on the attention and desirability associated with pretty privilege. So whenever someone uses the term desirability politics, what they're really talking about is pretty privilege. They're talking about who has pretty privilege and who doesn't. Who is viewed as more pretty by random people in society. Usually it's by white people. I mean, let's be honest. Usually when people say society, what they really mean is white people, and that's what gets on my nerves. That's why I try to say beauty is subjective. But if you're not seeing your phenotype being advertised in media, you are more likely to think that you are quote unquote ugly, because media companies purposely will pick people that they think are pretty. 21, having a wider range of options in romantic or social pursuits. So when they're saying social pursuits, they're saying friendships, going out and having fun. Maybe you feel more confident dancing at a bar or something because you have a pretty body. You have a wider range of options in terms of like who you can date or whatever, because you're placed on a pedestal. You're placed on a higher pedestal because of your social power. Beauty is a form of social power. 22, being more likely to be chosen for roles in school plays or projects. So if you're in high school or college, let's say you're auditioning for some sort of role and you fit the phenotype or you fit the beauty of the person who is in that role, then you're more likely to be cast. 23, having greater success in online dating. There are plenty of studies on this where people who are perceived as pretty, or they have pretty pictures, like maybe you have a nice smile or something like that, they tend to have more success, or maybe they get more matches. 24, being perceived as more likable by others. Attractive individuals might be perceived as more desirable, which leads to positive social interactions. Being perceived as likable has me thinking about if you're in the grocery store or you're around people at a coffee shop and they're complimenting your outfit. They're like, oh, that red looks so pretty on you. Oh, wow, your hair is beautiful. Oh, you have a beautiful complexion. Oh, I love the color of your eyes. All of that has to do with being perceived as likable, because they perceived you as approachable and non-threatening, and they felt comfortable complimenting you. 25, being invited to participate in research studies or focus groups. Researchers may be more inclined to recruit attractive individuals for studies and focus groups. So have you ever seen those talk shows where they have people on the street trying to recruit people off the street to like be a part of the talk show? I know I'm like going way back to the 90s, but that's what I think of. I mean, if you have a face that is deemed as attractive and safe, you are more likely to be approached on the street, and people are more likely to view you as trustworthy, versus if you look super scary and like off-putting, then people are not likely to want to recruit you for anything. 26, having an easier time getting loans or financial assistance. There are studies that show that attractiveness can influence lending decisions. Let's say you walk into a bank and you're wearing a beautiful suit and you've got a briefcase or something like that, but maybe your credit isn't the best. Well, ChatGPT says studies suggest that your attractiveness can still influence lending decisions. 27, receiving better service from healthcare providers. Healthcare providers may provide better care and treatment to attractive patients, as their appearance can influence perceptions of health and well-being. So you know how people associate beauty with being healthy? Because if you think about some of the most common forms of beauty, such as straight white teeth, clear skin, a healthy weight, people associate those things with health. 28. Being perceived as more competent by teachers or professors. Have you ever been called on by the teacher a lot? This is probably because you are very noticeable. Remember that phrase attractive, that word attractive means you literally attract attention. So you're probably more likely to be called on in class. 29. Having an easier time finding housing or roommates. Who would you rather have as your roommate? The creepy looking person or the normal pretty looking person? Number 30, being given more opportunities to speak or present in public. Have you ever worked a job that has nothing to do with presenting anything, but because you always look cute and because you carry yourself with confidence, now suddenly they want you to give HR presentations, suddenly they want you to speak in front of everyone? Well, that is a sign of pretty privilege. That's an example of it. 31. Being more likely to be featured in news articles or interviews. So, you know how those reporters are on the street, and once again, they're kind of like trying to ask people about what happened. It is more common for them to approach people who look approachable and safe. And when I use that term looking approachable, what I really mean is you look friendly, maybe you're smiling or something, maybe your hair looks all pretty or you just look like a princess. I mean, who doesn't want to talk to a princess? 32. Being considered more desirable by employers in certain industries. In industries where appearance matters, such as hospitality and entertainment, attractive girls may be perceived as more desirable and valuable employees. So, this is in the type of job where looks matter a lot. 33. Being seen as more desirable by landlords or property managers. Landlords and managers might prefer renting to attractive tenants as their appearance can influence perceptions of cleanliness and responsibility. A part of looking attractive is looking clean. So it looks like your skin is clean, it looks like your clothes are clean, your teeth are clean, your pores are clean. And so that makes sense that people are more likely to associate you having a clean look. They even call it clean girl makeup, so they associate your clean beauty with having more cleanliness. 34, having an easier time getting into exclusive clubs or venues. You know those girls that get mad at being rejected from getting into the club, or maybe they've never got into a club for free, or they get turned away because they look sloppy. I've noticed that a lot of overweight women, they tend to be more scrutinized when it comes to entering these classy events because people associate being super overweight. Sometimes people associate that with being sloppy because let's say you wear a little skimpy dress and you're like 300 pounds. Well, is that halter top going to really hold you up? Is it really going to hold up your boobs and support you? Is that backless dress, are you going to have like 10 or 15 rolls hanging out of the back of it? So stuff like that actually influences people's perception of you. And I've noticed that when it comes to clubs and bars, sometimes if they think you look too sloppy, then they actually will turn you away. This happened to one of my friends who she happened to be unambiguous, but I think that it was more due to her weight, that she was kind of turned away at the door, or he didn't want to let her in. It was because he was perceiving her as being more sloppy. By the way, none of this stuff is fair, but why play fair in an unfair world? I mean, I can't spend my time worrying about things I can't control, but what I can control is my beauty. 35. Being more likely to be approached by recruiters for job opportunities. Their appearance can enhance the appeal of the company. So you could make a whole company look legit just by simply being beautiful and professional with your little blazer on. A lot of people care about that. That's why a lot of receptionists are often very pretty, or they dress nice, they have a professional outfit on. 36. Being seen as the role model or the influencer within your social circles. Are you that friend where it's like everybody's asking you for makeup tips, everybody asks you how you do your hair, people are asking you for workout tips? That means you have pretty privilege. You have social influence within your circle because people look up to you as the role model. 37. Being perceived as more successful or accomplished. Research suggests that attractiveness is associated with success because it is. It is a lot of work to maintain a healthy weight, to have nice straight teeth, to have nice clear skin, to have nice thick full hair. And so beauty is actually a form of success. People associate it with being successful. 38. Having an easier time getting reservations at popular restaurants. By having a bunch of beautiful girls in the restaurant, you are making your restaurant look more high class. You're making your restaurant look more attractive. 39. Being chosen more often as a spokesperson or a representative. Have you ever had people want you to be a brand ambassador or they want you to speak for a certain cause? A lot of people, they want me to be their spokesperson on my YouTube channel. They want me to be a spokesperson for people that aren't even my core audience. That is a sign that without even showing myself that I clearly have pretty privilege according to ChatGPT. Exotical tax. Number 40, having an easier time getting discounts or special deals. Have you ever had like your car break down and somebody offers to fix it for free, or like the mechanic says you can have a free tire or you can have this free part, you don't have to pay for it, it's on the house? That is a sign of pretty privilege. 41, being offered more opportunities for networking or mentorship. Oh, I have actually done this where when I was in college, if I saw a little freshman girl and she was so cute and she reminded me of myself, I would naturally put myself in kind of like this mentor position or like this sister position, or I would see her as like my baby sister because that is a form of pretty privilege. So you are always either giving someone else pretty privilege or you are receiving pretty privilege. So for example, when that girl made that video saying, I don't have pretty privilege and that sucks, and then she told a story about how her friend got looked at in the bar, she was actually contributing to her friend's pretty privilege by talking about it and by using her friend as an example of someone who was treated as if they are pretty. Pretty privilege really means you get treated like you're pretty. So whether or not you actually are pretty in that person's eyes doesn't matter. What matters is how people treat you, because that's what pretty privilege is. That's really what the core of privilege is. 42, being seen as more credible in online discussions or debates. Well, we already know that the exotical channels, which talk a lot about beauty and pretty privilege and stuff like that, are seen as more credible than a lot of the channels that have been here before us. And how do we know this? We know this because for such a small space that we have here on YouTube, we've got people with 200,000 subscribers watching our channels. We've got people with hundreds of thousands of subscribers talking about us. Well, that is a sign of what ChatGPT says, being seen as more credible in online discussions or debates. It doesn't say you have to show yourself or, you have to compare your beauty to the other person's. No. In online forums and discussions, attractive girls may be perceived as more credible and persuasive. When it comes to your beauty, beauty makes you persuasive. 43, being perceived as more creative or artistic based on appearance. This happens a lot in the entertainment industry. A lot of people will give credit to a girl for being creative and being talented and having good artistry because she is pretty. And that is because people's brains associate creativity and art with beauty. Because think about it. If you are being creative, if you are creating art, you are creating beauty. So if you are beautiful, that means you are literally seen as a work of art. You are, on a subconscious level, you are viewed by others as a work of art. And so people are more likely to perceive you as being creative and artsy. Maybe they will call you the fashionista. Maybe you're not that good at makeup, but when you put makeup on your pretty face, people say, oh, are you a makeup artist? It's because they're associating beauty with creativity and art. 44, being more likely to receive support or sympathy in difficult situations. This is another one that a lot of people complain about. A lot of women who do not have pretty privilege, according to ChatGPT, are more likely to not receive sympathy. And so these are the women you hear complaining the most online, saying, nobody notices me, nobody listens to me, I don't have a voice, nobody pays attention to me, everyone minimizes me. Well, these are the types of women that do not have pretty privilege. They're not viewed as attractive, and so they are unable to attract attention. They're unable to attract attention for their cause. They're unable to be heard because they do not have that level of attractiveness compared to somebody else. 45, having an easier time getting help or assistance from others. Strangers and acquaintances may be more willing to offer help and assistance to pretty girls, as their appearance can evoke feelings of kindness and generosity. Have you ever seen a really cute baby drop their ice cream at the park or something, or they're clumsy and they're super cute and you're like, oh, I just want to help them? So that actually happens with adults. That happens with adult women who are perceived as pretty. Let's say you're walking and you fall or you drop something, people are more likely to pick it up. They're more likely to help you. 46, being perceived as more interesting or dynamic. Pretty girls might be perceived as more multifaceted. they may be perceived as more charismatic, it's because your appearance causes people to be more curious about you. When people perceive you as pretty, they're much more curious about what you look like. This is why people are even trying to dox myself or other women who have channels like this, because people are already perceiving you as pretty without having seen you. And so it makes them much more curious about your beauty. It makes them more curious about, what does she really look like? How does she do her makeup? How does she do her hair? And this is where you get those women at work and stuff where they're asking themselves, is her hair real? Is she wearing makeup? Is she wearing contacts? Did she get plastic surgery? They're curious about you. You are perceived as more interesting. Beauty is interesting. So the fact that people are even interested in whether or not your hair is real shows that your hair does look good, because otherwise people wouldn't be interested in it. You'd be invisible. The way to know that you don't have pretty privilege is if you are invisible or if you feel invisible. So even if you invoke anger, like people are jealous of you and stuff, well, that's a sign that you probably do have some form of privilege. But if you are perceived as completely invisible, you don't get a reaction out of anyone, no one is hyper excited about you, no one is hyper focused on you in a negative way, that's invisibility. So that means that you do not operate in those particular privileges. I know it's messed up, but I'm just exposing the society we live in. 48. Being more likely to be invited to participate in research studies. Researchers may be more interested in recruiting pretty girls for studies as their appearance can enhance the appeal and credibility of the research findings. So people associate beauty with credibility. This is why when the pretty girl talks, more people listen, more people get riled up. You've got more polarizing responses because you are the one who is automatically perceived as more credible because you have more social power. Beauty is a form of social power. 49. Having an easier time getting responses to job applications. If you are pretty, that can make a positive impression. You know how people say you want to make a good first impression? Well, if you're very pretty, if you're wearing a nice suit, your hair is flat ironed or your hair is curled perfectly, you've got a beautiful afro or something, that can help you to stand out because you're creating a positive impression. 50. Being more likely to be featured in promotional materials or ads. People want to associate their company with desirability. And so if you are viewed as desirable, aka viewed as beautiful, because beautiful and desirable, those are literally synonyms. Pretty, beautiful, desirable, attractive, all of these things are synonyms. So whenever people say desirability politics, what they're really saying is some of us are viewed as desirable while others of us are undesirable. But those are 50 examples of pretty privilege. What do you ladies think? Have any of these examples played out in your life? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.